Good evening. What you need to know: rescuers battled intensifying rain to furiously pump water from a cave in Thailand today, as officials made plans to extract a young soccer team and their coach located by divers after being trapped for 10 days. 7 members of a Thai Navy SEALs unit, including a medic and a counselor, were staying with the group after its dramatic discovery on an elevated rock late Monday. Rear Admiral Apikorn Yukonku, commander of the SEALs unit, said rain was still a challenge, but the boys and coach would be taken out safely as soon as sufficient water could be pumped out of the cave. "But if that doesn't work, with the seasonal rain, we'll do it another way." The 13 trapped individuals have been given a gel with high calorie and mineral content to sustain them while rescue plans are worked out. Recycled listings around Vancouver obscure major market. A detached house in Metro Vancouver took an average of 38 days to sell, according to official statistics. What the numbers don't tell us is that many of the city's properties had been listed previously and returned to the market at a lower price, Kerry Gold writes. "These recycled listings," says David Stroud, CEO of Mortgage Sandbox, "are misleading the public and skewing multiple listing service stats, on which the industry bases its market updates. It puts buyers at a disadvantage because they don't know how long the property has sat on the market and the degree to which the seller may be motivated to sell." Skewed data are also failing to give consumers a proper understanding of the housing market, particularly in the market for detached houses, which has been undergoing a severe correction since 2016. That market is at a near 30-year low in Vancouver, according to realtor Steve Soretsky. For subscribers, Canada among more than 40 countries objecting at WTO to U.S. car tariff plan. Canada and other major U.S. trading partners, including the European Union, China, and Japan, voiced deep concern at the World Trade Organization, WTO, today about possible U.S. measures imposing additional duties on imported autos and parts. They warned that the U.S. action could seriously disrupt the world market and threaten the WTO system, given the importance of cars to world trade. The Trump administration in May launched an investigation into whether imported vehicles pose a national security threat, and President Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened to impose a 20% import tariff on vehicles. On Friday he said that the probe would be completed in 3 to 4 weeks. Separately, the EU has warned the United States that imposing import tariffs on cars and car parts would harm its own automotive industry and likely lead to countermeasures by its trading partners on $294 billion of U.S. exports. In a 10-page submission to the United States Commerce Department sent last week, the EU said tariffs on cars and car parts were unjustifiable and did not make economic sense. Critics of potential car tariffs include the largest U.S. automaker, General Motors. It said that expansive tariffs on imported vehicles could lead to a smaller GM and risks isolating U.S. businesses from the global market. And 2 major auto trade groups cautioned that imposing tariffs would cost hundreds of thousands of American auto jobs, dramatically hike prices on vehicles and threaten industry spending on self-driving cars. Former Ontario PC leader Patrick Brown tries political comeback. Patrick Brown, former leader of Ontario's Progressive Conservative Party, is attempting a political comeback in the fall municipal election. He is running to become chair of Peel Region, a position that was previously appointed. The regional chair is CEO of the municipal corporation and the leader of the regional council. Brown stepped down as Tory leader in January after 2 women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against him, which he has consistently denied. His resignation months before the Ontario provincial election triggered a hastily organized leadership convention that saw Doug Ford take the reins of the party and become premier. This is the Daily Evening Update newsletter. If you're reading this online, or if someone forwarded this email to you, you can sign up for Evening Update and all Globe newsletters here. Have feedback? Let us know what you think. Market Watch. Canada's main stock index dipped slightly despite broad gains in Europe, while oil swung widely. The TSX fell 14.57 points, to 16,263.16. The biggest contributor to the loss was Canadian National Railway, which was down 1.6%. Industrials was the top sector contributor with 16.3 net points. Oil prices were volatile throughout the day, before West Texas Intermediate crude futures ended up 0.3% to $74.16 a barrel. Brent crude rose 0.47% to $77.66. In the United States, benchmark indices closed in the red after trading for much of the day in positive territory during a holiday-shortened session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 132.36 points to 24,174.82. The S&P 500 lost 13.49 points to 2,713.22 and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 65.01 points to 7,502.67. Facebook and Juniper Networks dipped marginally while Acuity surged. Got a news tip that you'd like us to look into? Email us at tips@globeandmail.com. Need to share documents securely? Reach out via Secure Drop. What's trending on social? Latte lovers, rejoice. New research shows drinking coffee may boost chances for a longer life, even for people who down at least 8 cups a day. In a study of nearly 500,000 British adults, coffee drinkers had a slightly lower risk of death over 10 years than abstainers. The apparent longevity boost was seen with instant, ground and decaffeinated coffee, results that echo U.S. research. Overall, coffee drinkers were about 10 to 15% less likely to die than abstainers during a decade of follow-up. Differences by amount of coffee consumed and genetic variations were minimal. Talking points: relax, nervous Nellies. The trade ruckus will pass. Nervous Nellies are everywhere. Take the example of Bob Ray, not normally a hyperbolic kind of guy. It is as difficult a moment as we have ever faced as a country, he darkly opined. Yikes. That bad? Seriously? In the 1995 Quebec referendum, the breakup of the country was threatened. Today we have a big trade ruckus. Volumes with our southern neighbor are threatened. Some prices could rise. Ketchup even. Run for cover. Lawrence Martin. Mr. Trudeau's negative interaction. But the real story here is not the details of an alleged ancient indiscretion at a beer fest. It's about what happens when it appears you apply a set of standards to other people that you yourself can't meet, after declaring that you are holier than everybody else. It's about perceived hypocrisy. And that's a story that's eminently worth telling. Margaret Whinty. The CRA makes life more difficult for people with disabilities despite the flaws in the process. People with physical disabilities fare pretty well. The old-fashioned notion that wheelchair equals disability still persists. Those with developmental and psychiatric disabilities face much higher rejection rates when applying for the disability tax credit. People with invisible chronic conditions such as type 1 diabetes and autism have been cut off unjustly and with little explanation. To make matters worse, people often have to reapply and demonstrate anew that they still have a disability, as if a person with Down syndrome, for example, suddenly sheds their third chromosome 21. André Picard. Living better. You're feeling stressed, achy and tense, so you've booked a massage. But if you spend your appointment simply zoning out, you're doing it wrong. To get the most of your massage, make sure to ask questions and communicate with your therapist so you can both get to the root of your discomfort, says Andrew Warren, Executive Director of the Registered Massage Therapists Association of Ontario. Armed with client information, Warren can then determine which muscles need to be stimulated and which ones need to be stretched out. Throughout the session, keep up the communication, and let the therapist know whether the massage is helping or hindering the issue. At the end, discuss what remedial exercises you can do to enhance the areas you're working on. Long reads for a long commute. When couples separate in today's housing market, both are going to take a big financial hit. Relinquishing the two-income life is a rude awakening for divorcees, Zasha Bielski writes. Those who can afford to buy property again face a sobering downsizing. Many others can't afford to buy back into their neighborhoods. Some will rent for the rest of their lives, ship off to more affordable towns, or move back home with mom and dad until the dust settles. That's actually not the worst-case scenario. Some couples staring down low equity and high debt can't afford to split up. Realtors often see couples clinging against all reason to the family home. There's an emotional trauma, said Keith Roy, a Vancouver realtor with RE/MAX Select, himself divorced 8 years ago. The house becomes your final stand. You will do anything to hold it because it's the one thing that you can keep after everything else in your life has fallen apart. Cookbooks of the past offer food for thought on Canada's national cuisine. The 1953 edition of the Canadian Cookbook, first published in 1923, is notable for acknowledging regional cooking and immigration patterns across the country. It contains the first recipe culinary landmarks author Liz Driver has seen in a Canadian publication for homemade pizza, reflective of an increased post-war Italian population. She cites subtle shifts that signal transitions away from the original roots of recipes, adapting them to new cultures and surroundings. There's an asterisk beside oregano that says, "If you can't find this, or don't recognize it, you can use sage," she says. These books were crucial for creating food habits. Evening Update is written by S.R. Slobodian. If you'd like to receive this newsletter by email every weekday evening, go here to sign up. If you have any feedback, send us a note.